So, just I'd like to give a brief talk about loving kindness or Metta. And I'll just give a little bit of what I know and maybe some examples of how it can be used. And it was advertised as being in relationship to relationships, how important they are in relationships. And loving kindness, the term for it is Metta. In Pali it's called Metta. Metta comes from the root mit, which means friend. So another way of understanding Metta is really like warm friendliness. So loving kindness is one of a set of four, I call the heart qualities, or four Brahma Viharas or divine abodes, or four immeasurables, the four sublime states. These are what they're called. Metta is loving kindness. The next one usually described is compassion or karuna. The next one is mudita or appreciative joy. Usually called in Buddhist circles, it's all called sympathetic joy, but I like to call it appreciative joy because it's not just sympathizing with another's joy or empathizing with another's joy, but you can sort of celebrate your own joy. So you can appreciate your own qualities. So that's not really sympathetic, it's just like just appreciating yourself. And the last quality in the set of four meditations, called the Brahma Viharas or the four divine abodes, is equanimity. And equanimity is a state of steadiness, unshakability in the face of the vicissitudes of life. So, so coming back to Metta. With Metta and all the heart qualities, you have something called the near and far enemies. The near enemies are their direct opposites, and the far enemies, the far enemies are their direct opposites. The near enemies are qualities that look like and seem like these particular qualities, but they're distorted aspects of them. They're distorted representations of them. The far enemies of loving kindness are all forms of hatred, bitterness, aggression, aversion. These direct opposites of this warm, heartfelt, gentle quality of friendship or friendliness. The near enemies are interesting. They're kind of distorted aspects of these qualities. The near enemies of loving kindness are like a codependent attachment or attachment, over-attachment, a kind of a clinging to a particular form of love, like codependency and sort of a distortion of love. I think you probably know what I'm meaning by this. It's like you might see people say they love someone, but in fact they're just really quite attached to them or dependent on them or codependent on them or something like that. And it looks like love, it looks like loving kindness, but it's actually a distortion. And so loving kindness, appreciative joy, compassion, equanimity are all about relationships. They are the way we relate. It's the way enlightened ones, or when we wake up to the way things are, it's the way we relate to ourselves and the world around us, other beings, and life in general. We relate to, when we can relate to ourselves with warm friendliness, and we relate to another with warm friendliness, it's like it breaks down the barriers that we may have with one another. Loving kindness is the antidote for one of the five main hindrances In particular, it's the antidote for aversion or aggression, which is a hindrance, ill will. This. Once upon one talk I gave here, probably about 3 months ago, I mentioned the 5 hindrances, which are obsessive sensual desire, ill will, aversion, pushing away. It's called sloth and torpor. I like to think about it as mental thickness and dullness. Like being stuck. I won't go into the big talk about the hindrances at the moment. I'm just mentioning them now. The 4th hindrance is restlessness, and the 5th hindrance is paralysing doubt. So without going into a big talk about that, I'd like to focus on just that aversion as the 2nd hindrance, ill will. Ill will is quite painful. It is divisive. It separates us from ourselves. It's unpleasant. I feel it's unpleasant anyway, and everyone I speak to feels it's unpleasant. Yet we get pulled into it so easily, and it breaks up the sense of connection with another. You feel like you want to pull back, you want to separate, you want to isolate. So I know I mentioned in the advertisement for this talk that we'll be talking about the importance of relationships. The importance of relationships with loving kindness is that it's a direct antidote for ill will. That's the main function. It serves to build harmony in relationships. It serves to heal dysfunctional relationships. It serves to befriend ourselves. A lot of people I see, I'm a clinical psychologist, a lot of people I see are depressed. And depression is a form of ill will towards oneself. It's like self-loathing and hatred. And loving kindness, if people can do it, is the direct antidote. Often it's very hard for people to do loving kindness, especially towards themselves, because they feel like they don't deserve it. And they feel like there's something wrong with them, and they're not good enough to deserve to be kind to. And unfortunately, they get caught up in spirals of misery and unhappiness. And I mean, when I say they, I include myself here. I'm just, I'm in it with everyone. So I've noticed that sometimes I get a bit of ill will. And it's kind of subtle in some senses. Like, for example, I've just recently sat on a 7-week solitary retreat. And I noticed that I'd start thinking about something. I might start thinking about a particular person and kind of judging them. And really, I'm the person suffering there. I might be judging them as, what do they think they're doing? Really, it's me. I mean, that person's nowhere to be found. Like, they're in my mind. And my judgments are my own aversions, are my own creation. And I think, why do I want to do that? And sometimes I'd be, why do I want to think badly of another person? There's a difference between ill will and discernment about what people do. And the other times I noticed that I might get kind of a bit, irritable with myself. Like thinking that I'm not good enough, or that I'm a failure or something like that. In fact, that's just ill will again. I could see this within myself. So when I was on retreat, every meditation I would do, I would spend a little while doing some loving kindness practice. And there's many ways of doing loving kindness practice. And the way I began it on my retreat was I would do some loving kindness at the beginning of every meditation set I did. Sometimes it would go for about 5 minutes, sometimes it would go for 15 minutes, something like that. And I would use words. I would think about times where I've been a little bit aversive and, judgmental to myself or another. And I would say to myself, may I be happy. I just want to be happy. I don't want to be caught up in this ill will, this cycle of criticism and bitterness. May I be happy. Let it go. And I would let go of my bitterness. And the next statement I would make, and these are very traditional phrases, may I be free from enmity. May I be free from that. May I be free from ill will. What a relief. And the next one would be, may I be free from troubles of mind and body. In other words, may I be healthy in body and mind. And then, we all have health issues. And I get psoriasis, for example. If I can imagine what it's like to be free from psoriasis, then it's de-stressing. It's really lovely. The next comment, so may I be free from troubles of mind and body. May I be healthy, happy, so I can build that aspiration up. The next statement that's traditional is, it goes, Apya Pajahomi. That's in Pali. It really means being free from mental torment. Being free from mental torment. Another way they say it is, may I be safe from inner and outer harm. Inner harm is the mental torment. Like, we torment ourselves. We beat ourselves up a lot. Well, some people do anyway. And this is the way to cure ourselves from that. So, may I be free from mental torment. And the last traditional phrase I use, and I would say this to myself, is, how does it go? Sukhi atanang pariharomi. That's in Pali, and it means, may I be able to protect my own happiness. So it's like I'm putting an aspiration for the future. May I be able to look after myself. May I live with ease. May I live in happiness. May I be mindful enough to detect the times when I'm creating my own suffering and short-circuit that tendency, if that makes sense. So, Apya Pajahomi. And so, I do this, and then I would think, well, may other beings be happy. And it was very easy to think of my grandchildren. I have 2 grandchildren. And it was very easy to think of my loving partner, who I've been with for over 30 years now. When I think of these beings, I just have love. I mean, there's a warm feeling in my heart. And that stimulates me to feel this warm feeling happening in my heart. And then if I'm kind of irritable with someone, I just kind of think, may you be happy too. It's like I share it with them. May you be happy. So that kind of, it neutralizes any ill will that I might have for another person. So I did this for about a month every time I meditated, and I was meditating quite a lot. I just do that. And then I changed it because I kept just getting the feelings arising. All I had to do was go think of something and there'd be a feeling arise. So I just let the feeling arise, the feeling of loving kindness arise, and abide with that. Focus on that as a serenity meditation and just be with it. And that's actually the way it was taught traditionally. That's the way it is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be with lots of words, even though words are really helpful. It is the way it was taught originally. It's not actually, I'll take that back. It is the way it is. People use whatever strategies work for them. And in the original teachings of the Buddha, he taught it as an abiding, as an abode, a sense of spaciousness and a sense of warmth and kindness, as a kind of, as a mental state. And it can lead to great states of concentration. So it's a really healing practice. And when I do it, I notice that I can sort of live it. You know, I walk out into the streets and see people, and there's lots of loving kindness. It's really lovely. It's a lovely place to be in loving kindness, rather than kind of feeling like defensive and feeling like you have to maneuver. And it's a really good way of combating aggression from another. So I'm going to stop this talk in a minute. I think perhaps I've stimulated enough to have some discussion. So loving kindness, it has near and far enemies. It is the direct antidote for ill will. Ill will is one of the many causes of suffering within ourselves and others, of course. And if we can practice and cultivate the direct antidote, we can be free and happy and peaceful and abide in the sublime experience of loving kindness. Thank you.